buying all the cars outside. The sugar ass nigga in this big ass house. They keep calling on code enforcement. I keep buying more cars. My homie threw dirt on my name and went and bought 6 go-karts. Them shits more like ATVs. If it ain't about cash, I got ADD. The money's on the line on the way we speak. I spend a grand and money on ATT. I could care less about what people think of me. Your opinion ain't gon' pay none of my bills or feed my seeds. I got everything that I could ever need. And if I can't go and get it, then I'm only blaming me. Responsibilities. 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 If I don't hustle, we don't get to eat. And if I can't go and get it, then I'm only blaming me. Responsibilities. I was sleeping 4 a.m. I must be crazy. So it's gonna be up in like an hour. I can take it. My auntie, she got cancer. One of her breasts got amputated. She dealing with her own shit, but keep me in her prayers. Fuck, I look like complaining. I'm alive, no time for bitching. Got my back against the ropes, but I'm prepared to go the distance. I'm here to collect. All I ask for is respect for that dick right in your chest. Go get the money, don't think any less. Even if you get a government check, fuck what they say. They all about bands, they all about flashing that shit for the grand. But in real life, they live with their parents that don't have a car, they sharing their pants. Fuck your Robbie, go back to college. Niggas be 30 still talking about mobbing, but fuck it, you love how you live, so do what you do. It's honestly not my problem, I don't give no shit about what people think of me. Your opinion ain't gon' pay none of my bills or feed my seeds. I got everything that I could ever need, and if I can't go and get it, then I'm only blaming me. Responsibilities. 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 If I don't hustle, and we don't get to eat. If I can't go and get it, I'm only blaming me. I don't care about people.
What's going on, everybody? It's your favorite host, Consciouztv. Welcome to another riveting episode. Honey, what is going on this amazing Tuesday? I'm not going to be with you guys too long because I am about to go do something that I've never, ever done in my entire life. I'm a little bit shook. So my friend is on the way. He'll probably pull up as I'm doing this live, but I done rescheduled this live like 4 or 5 times. So I'm going to go ahead and get it out of the way. If you are in the building, please give me a nasty piece of thumbs up. Definitely hit that subscribe button if you're new here. If you're old here, if you've been here, if you're just getting here, definitely hit that notification bell so that you can keep up with all of my latest uploads. Okay. Before we get off into this discussion, can you guys hear me? I want to make sure that my sound is perfectly clear before we have this dialogue. What's going on, Distance Lover? What's going on, Ayo? Hey, Morgan. What's going on? What I see with Barbara G? What's going on? Hi. Hey, Mod. Can you guys hear me just fine? Hey, She Diaries. What's going on? Can you guys hear me? I want to make sure you guys can hear me. I can't wait to see how he is going to twist all of Dr. Cosby words and make him seem like a alleged rapist when there's no proof and a bunch of conflicting stories. Well, stay tuned. What I see with Barbara J. Okay, can you guys hear me? All right. So, church announcements. 2 men and a lady. We did the show last night. Definitely head over to the Wiley Show. Check us out. Me, Katie Talk 101. We had a great docket. We let have on Britney Spears, Bill Cosby, Pookie, Tiffany. It was a really good show. So definitely check that out. I think that's it for the church announcements. I think we can go ahead and get into it. Let me play this old nasty piece of intro. And let's dig off, girl, because we got some things to get into. Okay? Baby.
I know a place where you can recharge your soul.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
And in the midst of brokenness, he gon' see your asshole.
Baby, that's Consciouztv.
You gon' heal, you gon' laugh and catch a little shade.
Ooh, girl.
Y'all know he be slaying, y'all better stop playing. Come hear what he's saying.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Coco says, I've been stalking your page looking for this live, baby. So me and Wiley did not agree, baby, on what this Bill Cosby situation was, okay? Now, you guys know that I've done 2 commentaries so far. And in the first 2 commentaries, we really more so stayed true to a conversation around criminal justice reform, around the technicalities and nuances and ins and out of the Bill Cosby case and why he was set free. We went into all of that. And it was a fair release, okay? The conviction was overstepped on a technicality due to pretty much double fucking jeopardy, okay? And he legally got to walk out of that prison system, or out of that prison. But in this commentary, we want to focus on the other aspect of the dialogue, which is where America was divided at. Because you had some people who still believe that Bill Cosby is guilty and that a guilty man walked free, got to go back home, got to pretty much abort his sentencing, and people are floored. The alleged victims, accusers in this case, are very much so unhappy, uneasy. So there's a lot going on. This is a very interesting case because of where we are currently within our society. Like, as far as melanated people are concerned, there's a portion of our community who's like, who gives a fuck? It's really refreshing in principle to see a Black man actually be able to trump the criminal justice system, since we know that America's criminal justice system disproportionately sentences and punishes and convicts Black and brown people. Okay, so to finally see a Black man walk home free was like really inspiring, and people felt like we could use one for the team. Okay, and then you also have this controversy around whether Bill Cosby is guilty. Now, once again, I'm not going to go into the criminal justice part and him going free. If you want to hear my commentary on that, just visit the previous commentaries on the case where we get into the technicality that set him free. I would definitely leave that in the description box. Here's the thing. Well, before we even get there, we got to go somewhere else real quick. We got to get into this Lamont Hill. Let me share my screen. We got to get into this Lamont Hill situation. This Lamont Hill, you guys know Anchorman Lamont Hill. He interviewed Judge Joe Brown as it related to the Bill Cosby release, okay? And this was a pretty heated exchange. These two went at it like Jack. Now, in the court of public opinion, people are saying that Judge Joe Brown dragged the living dog shit out of Lamont Hill. It was overwhelmingly favorable to Judge Joe Brown. And that was very interesting to me because Lamont Hill was asking questions that could have really prompted like the conversation that we would really like to have, which is when the criminal justice system pretty much frees a person who's technically guilty. How is the public to deal with that? How is society to perceive the criminal justice system? And I was very frustrated with the exchange between the both of them as well, because I understood from Judge Joe Brown's perspective as a judge. He's been in law, obviously. The law is the law. But this is America. And the law is also complete bullshit. We're not talking about like a righteous, holistic justice system, a fair justice system, a nuanced justice system, a system that's based upon actual justice. The majority of the criminal justice system really comes down to who can afford the better lawyer in the situation. There are people who have done the things that they've been accused of and alleged of and been able to walk home scot-free. I mean, I'm not even going to name any notable historical figures, okay, who we all knew did the crime, but damn sure didn't do the time because they had some well-qualified, experienced, very clever lawyers, okay? And so this idea that the criminal justice system actually provides justice is a whole separate conversation in and of itself. Like, justice and the criminal justice system, right? That's an interesting thing, right? But here we had Judge Joe Brown, who I agree with about why I understand everything around Judge Joe. Oh, hold on, I just fucked this up. I understand everything around why Bill Cosby went home free. I have no problem with that. The law is supposed to be integral. It corrected an error. He went home free. He was never supposed to be locked up. But the problem with this is that deposition, which we're going to get to. Because that Bill Cosby's 2015 deposition is absolutely horrific. It's disgusting. It's ethically and morally upsetting. And it can bring about a frustration because here it is, you do have a man admitting to predatory, unethical, criminal behavior, but because the criminal justice system have loopholes and clauses within them that allow guilty people to take plea deals and to pay their way out of prison and to pay off victims, you get people like a Bill Cosby who can technically avoid imprisonment. Okay? We're going to read some excerpts from that deposition. But once again, before we get there, I was floored, honestly, by so many people's vote for Judge Joe Brown. And I can't believe that the audience underneath this commentary, this interview between Lamont Hill and Judge Joe Brown, came down to Judge Joe Brown dragging and roasting. Oh, he dragged Lamont. Oh, he roasted Lamont. Lamont asked some genuine questions that Judge Joe Brown didn't want to have anything to do with because Lamont Hill was very clear about why Bill Cosby went free. The issue is, what about his admission? What about his confession? What about his own words in black and white? What about his transcript where he admits to predatory fucking behavior, top tier perv, top tier predator, allegedly, from his own words. And Judge Joe Brown was just like, fuck that, fuck that, fuck that, fuck that, fuck that. Doesn't fucking matter. The law, the law, the law, the law, the law. And then when Lamont Hill said, so what about in cases like Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman, where George Zimmerman was clearly out of order and responsible for Trayvon Martin's death and got to walk away scot-free without punishment? Instead of Judge Joe Brown talking about the law as well in that context, he went into how black people need to vote for proper legislation and black people wouldn't have this fucking problem if they were vote local and vote their vocal politician. And I agree with all of that. But I just found it interesting how nobody caught how Judge Joe Brown was literally experiencing selective fucking hearing and ducking and dodging, having to really speak to the question that Lamont Hill was posing. Then Judge Joe Brown just really quit with all the political correct shit and just all out went completely fucking ham and started calling these victims, these accusers whores. These are a bunch of whores. They just should be ashamed of themselves. They know what they came to that hotel to do. And I'm just floored. Like, is Judge Joe Brown O-fucking-K? Like, to be a man of the cloth, the robe, the gavel, whatever the fuck you want to call it, there's a whole lot of niggerment that you are like exuding and personifying in a professional interview with this guy who isn't asking you about whether the women in this case are promiscuous and whether they came to the hotel room or to wherever Bill Cosby was to get dick, but rather the issue should still be the frustration around the criminal justice system not properly punishing someone who got to confess to this level of criminality. And even though the law is setting him free, which is a whole, like, you know, what the fuck in and of itself, but what the fuck are we the people supposed to think, and what type of faith are we supposed to have in a criminal justice system that allows for people to do wrong and to be able to cut all types of deals that they are afforded legally and walk back into society, which poses a question and a big ass threat to society. Like, who really felt safe? What black and brown person felt safe with George Zimmerman going back into society? What black and brown person felt comfortable with which George Zimmerman pooching back into the same community, moving back into the same neighborhood that he took Trayvon Martin's life at? How many black and brown parents in that same neighborhood, how many black and brown parents now who live wherever the fuck George Zimmerman lives is shook because a man who clearly broke the fucking law, or because he had a well-to-do set of lawyers, got to just shoot and kill a black child in broad daylight with his eyes still left open. And George Zimmerman gets to spend the rest of his life believing that his actions were rational, logical, and just, all because his lawyers were able to convince a jury that despite being told by 911 dispatchers to fall the fuck back and give Trayvon 50 fucking feet, police are on the way, despite ignoring those orders, despite the fact that George Zimmerman could not account for anything threatening Trayvon Martin was doing, to justify why he was even stalking, supervising, surveillancing the young man. George Zimmerman got to break the law while on the phone with the fucking law and then go to court and answer to the law and be exonerated by the motherfucking law. I think that's pretty terrifying. And I think Lamont asked and posed questions that are heavy and that require some just fucking answers, especially considering that black and brown people out here combating the criminal justice system in the form of Black Lives Matter, police protests, rioting, boycotting. But then we have the issue of the actual system in place for justice. Is it truly just? So, Lamont Hill, I'm probably a part of the minority of people who felt like, who here to tell you, you weren't crazy. Judge Joe Brown is a respectability politic, ashy foot, banana eating bigot. Period. Who is toxic as hell, narrow-minded and short-sighted as hell, and unfortunately has the credentials to be technically an educated man, but damn sure in my eyes not a righteous one. So before we move into the deposition, one more thing I want to note about that interview, and let me pull it up here, because I was shook, and it didn't shock me. And I know cis black men are about to probably go fucking ballistic because of what I'm about to point out. But oh well, let it have, honey. Let there be blood in these viral streets at this fucking point, okay? Because I'm sick of the fuck shit. Girl, we just gonna have to have every fight we gonna need to have and go to war with every motherfucking kingdom we gonna need to go to war with, okay? Because at this fucking point, it's on. We're not holding back, hunty. It's on. We calling hoes to the motherfucking carpet. Let me pull up this interview because there's something else that I noticed that I don't think anybody else noticed. I don't know why I'm noticing all the shit that nobody else is noticing. But I am. I should have had this queued up. Okay, here it is. Hold on. So in this discussion, I found it interesting that there was a vast amount of cis male presence, and I'm going to assume hetero presence, in the comment section of this interview, rooting for Judge Joe Brown, rooting on his rhetoric around these women being whores, etc. And I didn't find that to be coincidental, considering that cis hetero black men don't even want to acknowledge the rape culture perpetuated through black media, black music, etc. They don't even want to. I wasn't surprised that there was a large presence of cis male in this comment section who completely took to Judge Joe Brown's. Because I've heard the same shit growing up from men anytime anything happened to a fucking woman. I've never heard, and I'm black, so I can only speak to the black cis hetero experience because that's been my upbringing. That's my reality. I participate in barbershops, locker rooms, male spaces. I have access to toxic male spaces, like most black men have access to toxic male spaces. And the grotesque rhetoric and psychology of black men when it comes to women's bodies is literally that of a narcissist. Black cis hetero men see nothing wrong with coercion. They see no moral wrong in coercion into sex. They see no ethical wrong in coercion of sex. They see no literal wrong in a woman being scantily dressed and that's sending some nonverbal cue to the male species that she's welcoming sex. And if rape happens as a result of a woman's aesthetic of informing a man that she's hot, she's in heat, and she's horny, that even if he has to take it from that woman, he really didn't take it from that woman. Because the way she behaved and the way she gyrated and the way and how flirty she was and how seductive she was and how provocatively dressed she is somehow justifies dominating, violating this woman physically. And you are hearing that type of rhetoric all over this case. Even Wiley last night went on this. But they're whores. They're whores. They're whores. They knew what they were doing. They're whores. Why were they whores? Because they came over to his place after hours. They're whores? Okay. But we're not talking about whether they're wrong for being whores. We're talking about whether Bill Cosby is wrong for giving quaaludes, which are not equivalent to poppers, but fucking equivalent to a fucking anesthesia based upon the volume of quaaludes you give to someone that can render a person immobilized, paralyzed, with impaired judgment, or completely and utterly unconscious. It's okay even if these women wanted the dick. The crime is the fact that I didn't ask to hit the dick unconsciously. I didn't ask to be impaired during the sexual experience. If you want to make the argument that these women in y'all's mind knew exactly what was going to happen and take place, they had to be experienced enough and mature enough to know that if a man is asking you over at a certain time of night, alone, in a hotel room, in whatever, in a private suite, that your common sense should render. Maybe a fine conclusion to jump to. But I'm still trying to figure out how in the fuck does that justify the things in this deposition that we're going to get into? Because I can want to get some dick tonight. And I can hit up one of my concubines tonight. And I can come and I can go over to my concubine's house tonight. For a good time. But unless I said, made it known, or asked for a drug, or asked to be provided some pills to render me unconscious, you can't justify me going over for a little salacious one night stand because I signed up for that. Whatever happened to me and was fine. If I was raped, it's fine. If I was drugged, it's fine. If I was sexually assaulted, it's fine. If I decided to change my mind midway through the experience and said no, and he took me anyway, it's fine. Let's say the women are whores. They didn't ask to be impaired whores. They didn't ask to be unconscious whores. They didn't ask to be drugged up whores. They never anticipated, even for those who told Bill Cosby they were experiencing a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of stress. Even those women could not have anticipated that what he was going to give them would have been something that would leave them unable to respond to being groped, being molested, being physically violated. If I go to someone's house and I say, hey, I got a little headache, I'm feeling a little jittery, and a man says, oh, okay, I got you something. I get you something. Now, maybe, let's say he tells me that he put a little something in my drink, just something to help calm me down. I'm going to reasonably expect that this man gave me something over the counter, maybe an Advil, a Tylenol, but who the fuck is going to think that someone is giving them something that is going to leave them unconscious or mentally impaired? And who the hell is going to expect someone of Bill Cosby's stature at that time one of the most notable pop figure icons, would do something so low vibrating, so absurd and disrespectful? Who would conceptualize that? Like, who's and because you guys gotta really not like, y'all gotta step into the era. This is Bill fucking Cosby, America's favorite goofy dad. Most, even adults in America, get really caught up in these personalities that these actors play. And so he's still the Huxtable's father. He plays a positive, holistic figure, a wholesome figure. He's a good guy. This is Bill Cosby. Who's going to be threatened by Bill Cosby? Who's going to even feel a way about going to Bill Cosby's fucking hotel at 9:30, 11:30, or in some salacious morning? Nobody. Is Bill fucking Cosby, the man who wears his shirt tucked in his fucking pants and wears an old nasty piece of slick leather belt. I would not have been threatened by Cosby. I would have, between this man being successful, between this man having a stable career, between this man being powerful in media, between all of these factors, right? Like, I would have felt reasonably safe alone, like just with that alone. Who's going to look at Bill Cosby as a predator? And the reality is, because he actually doesn't look like a typical predator, he doesn't look like the rapist pulling you into the alleyway. He doesn't look like the rapist coming through the window of your house. He doesn't look like the heathen that you could probably rationalize later should have made your spidey senses go off. Bill Cosby looked like everybody's dad. He looked like an everyday person. And he was a powerful person who had access to wealth and hypervisibility. Nobody was going to feel a way about answering Bill Cosby's phone calls and meeting him wherever the fuck he needed to be met at. And nobody who is career ambitious and career driven was going to not take an opportunity to have a fucking drink and sit down with somebody who is perceived as a fucking gatekeeper to their career. Are you going to turn down a fucking a sit down or a phone call or a meetup with your favorite celebrity? No. How many of y'all are going to say no to Beyonce? How many of y'all are going to say no to Barack Obama? How many of y'all are going to say no to Oprah? How many of y'all? Everybody's acting like, oh my God, these, like, stop it. Like, I'm going to need people to really cut the shits and stop acting like you wouldn't have been pressed, you wouldn't have been overwhelmed, and you wouldn't have felt lucky and fortunate to have somebody that powerful with that much capital and resource and access that you just would have treated that like a, oh hell no, I'm not going to meet up with Mr. Powerful, Mr. Per Capital, Mr. Gatekeeper. Are you fucking kidding me? Kevin Hart fine ass emails me right now. I'm going to the hotel willingly at 2 a.m. Kevin, email me at consciouztv@gmail.com. Nick Cannon emails me tonight and wants to have a sip of champagne to talk business at 11:30. Nick Cannon, email me tonight at consciouztv@gmail.com. We can talk some business. Oh, yes. So you got to keep the context in mind here. Women in the industry, women who want to be in Hollywood, women who want access to the spaces that Bill Cosby has access to, putting everything aside to take an opportunity of a lifetime, which is a sit down with Cosby. That's a make or break situation in most people's eyes, who understand that opportunities in entertainment come a dime a dozen, and that you don't get to choose to say too many no's, because for every one of your talented asses trying to get in, there's 10,000 more talented motherfuckers trying to get access to exactly what you want to get access to. Entertainment is so fucking competitive that the competitive nature of the industry almost is enough pressure alone to make some people yield to compromising their ethics, their safety, their personal agency for access to what is taught to us from the time we are a child is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If somebody prestigious wants your attention and wants you to show up, bitch, that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. How many of us have been conditioned, have been indoctrinated with this notion growing up, that if somebody in perceivable power of importance, somebody with access who can make or break your dreams, who can make or break your career, who can make or break you getting into this school, this alumni school, this. How many people have been told this shit their whole life? Once in a lifetime opportunity. Once in a lifetime opportunity. And to be honest, I would have took a drink from Bill Cosby too, just be real. He's Bill Cosby. He's a fluffy, goofy, charming smile black man. Why am I not going to take a drink from Bill? I want to take a drink from these niggas now. You know, the Me Too movement doesn't happen, baby. So motherfuckers is up on game now. Okay? The industry done been, in the words of Jocelyn, susposed. So you don't take a drink now. But this was pre-Me Too movement. This was when the casting couch drama was an industry secret, an urban legend, a mythology. So I'm giving these women the benefit of a doubt. I don't give a fuck whether they came over for dick or not. I don't give a fuck whether they're whores or not. Bill Cosby had no reason to immobilize them by way of fucking quaaludes. That is criminally wrong. It's ethically wrong for him to use his fame as a seductive tool, because he knew what type of women these were. Women who wanted access. Women who wanted resource. Women who wanted a shot. Women who wanted a breakthrough in their careers. And guess what? This deposition that we're about to read is a straight up confession of just that. So let me remove Lamont Hill. And let's pull up this deposition. And this is just a few excerpts, guys. Hey, King. What's going on, Official King? Hi. Let's bring up this deposition, honey, because I was shook to my weave. Shook, you guys, to my fucking weave. It's gonna bring it to you. Okay, let me pull this up. Just let it go. Let me blow this up bigger, make me small. Okay, you guys, so let's read through this, girl. Let's get into some things. So this is from New York Times, you guys, NewYorkTimes.com. I'm going to leave the link to this article in the description box below. It reads, Bill Cosby in deposition said drugs and fame helped him seduce women. Okay? Now, all this is allegedly, girl, from New York Times, okay? This is from July 18th, 2015. Okay? And it reads that, hold on, let me make sure this is the right one. Oh, yeah, this is the right one, girl. Let's get into it, honey. I was fucking shook, you guys. I was shook. Okay. So it reads, he was not above seducing a young model by showing interest in her father's cancer. Now we're going to get into the alleged predatory behavior of a fucking narcissistic sexual deviant, okay? He was not above seducing a young model by showing interest in her father's cancer. He promised other women his mentorship and career advice before pushing them for sex acts. And he tried to use financial sleight of hand to keep his wife from finding out about his serial philandering. My heart drops. Bill Cosby admitted to all of this and more over 4 days of intense questioning 10 years ago at a Philadelphia hotel where he defended himself in a deposition for a lawsuit filed by a young woman who accused him of drugging and molesting her. Even as Mr. Cosby denied he was a sexual predator who assaulted many women, he presented himself in the deposition as an unapologetic cavalier playboy, someone who used a combination of fame, apparent concern, and powerful sedatives in a calculated pursuit of young women, a profile at odds with the popular image he so long enjoyed, that of father figure and public moralist, you guys. So I want to go back through this line really quick. Hold on. Because this is some crazy shit. Okay? So remember when, what's her name? I forgot the victim's name, but her name is like Victoria Valentino. She was one of the women who testified in court against Bill Cosby. And when Bill Cosby was released, she did an interview with CNN. In that interview, she said that she was shook by Bill Cosby's release because her, as well as the other women who testified, the other accusers, had just got word from Bill Cosby's probation that he was disqualified for because he had submitted for a probation release, and he felt due to not complying, okay, with the terms and the conditions of qualifying for parole. One of those things was attending all of the rehabilitation programs put in place in his prison facility that all sexual offenders had to take if they wanted to be qualified for parole. So the fact that Bill Cosby allegedly was not interested, even when he filed for parole not too long ago, and was not interested in taking any recourse, being apologetic, or even looking at himself as a predator, is consistent with also this New York Times article that says even as Mr. Cosby denied he was a sexual predator who assaulted many women, he presented himself in a deposition as an unapologetic cavalier playboy and someone who used a combination of fame and apparent concern and powerful sedatives in a calculated pursuit of young women. Even at Bill Cosby's dilapidated 80-year-old plus state, Bill Cosby's mindset never changed about the way he perceived himself, which was fucking innocent. This is true narcissism. Denial and ownership all at the same time. He completely confessed, as we're going to read through these excerpts, to these crimes, while at the same time maintaining his innocence, because as you're going to see in the deposition excerpts, he justified his fuckery and predatory behavior on the women, on the other party, like all fucking narcissists do. Never take any fucking accountable. Even when the most out of order, inhumane action is taken. Nope, it was the other party's fault. You shouldn't have provoked me. You shouldn't have made me mad. You shouldn't have did X, Y, Z. And the narcissist gets to press the fucking gas, all because of some perceived wrongdoing on your end. Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone. And it's just interesting that even as an 80-year-old prisoner, he was uninterested in any rehabilitation and attending any fucking class. Because as far as Bill Cosby was concerned, even with one eye and a peg leg, I ain't did shit to none of these fucking women. They asked for it. They wanted it. This was consensual. But we're going to see whether you still think that this was consensual when we read some of these excerpts. So let's do it. In the deposition, which Mr. Cosby has for years managed to keep private, but was obtained by the New York Times, the entertainer comes across as alternatively annoyed, mocking, occasionally charming, and sometimes boastful, and blithely describing sexual encounters in graphic details. Such a fucking bastard. Okay, it reads, he talked of the 19-year-old aspiring model who sent him her poem and ended up on his sofa, where Mr. Cosby said she pleasured him with lotion. He spoke with casual disregard about ending a relationship with another model so he could pursue other women. Moving on, in quotations, was his phrase. He suggested that he was skilled in picking up non-verbal cues that signal a woman's consent. Girl, I you want me to read that again? He suggested. Bill Cosby suggested that he was skilled in picking up non-verbal cues that signal a woman's consent. The reason why this shooks me, the reason why I am shook into my core is because there are so many fucking men who actually believe there is a such thing as non-verbal consent. So many men want to believe in the myth of non-verbal consent so that they don't have to consent and therefore avoid being accountable for what happens next. Because men love this idea of non-verbal consent because it practically tells them that you can just imagine a woman consenting, that you can just perceive or desire a woman to consent by interpreting any gesture, anything she's wearing, anything she's saying in the situation to justify sexual encounter or sexual assault. Men want there to be a such thing as non-verbal consent because it's a way for men to be absolved of their actions under the guise of being able to reasonably assume that a woman wanted the sex. She wanted the encounter because she grazed me across my head, because she put her breast up against my chest, because she was in close proximity when she was speaking to me. All of this stupid shit is what can fall under the umbrella of non-verbal consent. She was using a seductive tone when she was speaking to me. She said my name real slow. She was whispering. She had her hand on my shoulder. She put her head on my thigh. That's it. Any perceived, imagined invite card to come get the goodies. Do you know how fucking dangerous this is for anyone to fucking believe? Do you know how dangerous this concept of non-verbal fucking consent? The only person who isn't supposed to verbally consent is an actual fucking mute. Okay? They might be forced to consent through sign language, but they physically cannot fucking consent. Everybody else, male species, hear me roar. Hear me roar, motherfucker, has to verbally consent to sex. They also, guess what, men? We're going to get into the excerpt, believe me. Women get to verbally unconsent to sex. That also means no matter how fucking far in you are to getting your groove on and getting your dick hard, once the person says stop, or says no, or say, can you please get off me? Or can you please move? Or I don't want this, or push you away from them. Verbalize distress. Guess what you have to do? Oh, you have to get the fuck up and get the fuck off. But you know what? The concept of nonverbal consenting allows men to get away with too. The concept of nonverbal consent allows a man to not only perceive you as inviting him to sex by nonverbal cues, it allows him to sustain the sexual assault by way of not what your mouth was screaming, which was stop, get off me, or the agonizing screams of enduring a sexual experience that you want to abort. But a man gets to justify not listening and numbing himself to all your verbal cues because technically your legs are still open. Technically, his dick is still wet. Technically, he gets to justify. This is rape culture rhetoric at its finest. This is rape culture philosophy at its finest. And toxic motherfuckers believe in non-verbal consenting. That's toxic, predatory, narcissistic shit. No healthy person has a concept of non-verbal fucking consent. Moving on. He suggested he was skilled in picking up the nonverbal cues that signals a woman's consent. Quote, this is Bill Cosby. I think I'm pretty decent. I'm a pretty decent reader of people and their emotions in these romantic sexual things, whatever you want to call them. He said, read it again. I think I'm pretty decent. I'm a pretty decent enough reader of people and their emotions in these romantic sexual things, or whatever you want to call them. Through it all, his manner was largely one of casual indifference. At one point in the first day of questioning, Dolores M. Traiani, the lawyer for the plaintiff in the case, Andrea Constant, a young woman who worked at Temple University as a basketball manager, seemed struck by Mr. Cosby's jocular manner. Quote, I think you're making light of a very serious situation, she said, to which Mr. Cosby replied, that may very well be. Interest in Mr. Cosby's deposition grew this month when a federal judge unsealed a 62 memoranda of law in the case, which had settled in 2006. So for those of you who asked, how many pages of the 2015 deposition was it? 62 fucking pages of the memoranda. The memoranda contained excerpts from the deposition, including Mr. Cosby's acknowledgement that he had obtained quaaludes as part of his effort to have sex with women. The parties have been prohibited from releasing the memoranda because of confidentiality clause that was part of the settlement agreement, but the deposition itself was never sealed. This month, Mrs. Constand's lawyers asked the court to lift the confidentiality clause so that her client would be free to release the nearly 1,000-page deposition. I'm coming, you guys. I had to just make sure everything was good. The Times later learned that the transcript was already publicly available through a court reporting service. Mr. Cosby has never been charged with a crime and has repeatedly denied the accusations of sexual assault now leveled by dozens of women. David Brokaw, Mr. Cosby's publicist, did not respond to requests for comment on Saturday. Mrs. Troiana declined to comment. I hate all these fucking names, okay? In 3 suits, women who accused Mr. Cosby of sexual misconduct are pursuing civil claims against him. In addition, the Los Angeles police have said they are reviewing a complaint of a sexual nature against Mr. Cosby. While Mr. Cosby described encounters with many women through the course of his deposition, it is through his long and detailed descriptions of his relationship with Mrs. Constand, who is much younger than Mr. Cosby's, attitudes, proclivities, and approach to women are more clearly revealed. Mrs. Constand was present for at least some of Mr. Cosby's testimony in the Rittenhouse Hotel in Philadelphia, okay? First spotting her at a temple. So now we're going to go into this scenario between Constand and Bill Cosby. First spotting her at a Temple University in the early 2000s, Mr. Cosby said he felt romantic interest immediately. She's good looking, and began a relationship that led, in his telling, we're not talking about what Constand alleges. We're talking what Bill Cosby himself is detailing, what he is admitting. For those who act like there's no proof that Bill Cosby did anything, clearly you've never heard of a fucking deposition, and clearly you didn't know that one fucking exists, and clearly you didn't know that there are 1,000 fucking pages of confession of drug-inducing sexual coerced encounters with suspected women. Yeah, that's what we're reading here. Okay. I got a lot going on, y'all. So, hold on. Let me turn off my camera, girl. Hold on. Let's keep reading, girl. So asked how he wooed her. Mr. Cosby, who has been married since 1964, responded, inviting her to my house, talking to her about personal situations dealing with her life, growth, and education. He painted his relationship with Mrs. Constand as one of mentor and mentee, casting himself in the role of an experienced guide and offering her the benefit of his contacts, fame, and experience. At times, he described becoming frustrated after Mrs. Constand failed to follow his advice, such as when he wanted her to pursue her interest in sports broadcasting by calling someone and she did not. Here's a mentor, Bill Cosby, who is in the business. Bill Cosby, who happens to know something about what to do, and Andrea is not picking up on it, he said, okay? So let's just file through, girl, because I want to get to the transcript parts, girl, because there's like a whole Q&A. There's a whole Q&A, girl. Oh, this is it, bitch. Actually, I should stop flying through, girl. Oh, I'm just going to have to read it through. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so let's just keep reading, girl. Mrs. Constance ultimately went to the police to complain of Mr. Cosby's behavior, but in his telling, his seduction was one of persistence and patience. Early in his courtship, he arranged an intimate meal alone with her at his Pennsylvania home, complete with cognac, dime lights, and a fire, he said. At one point, he had led her to his back porch out of sight from his chef. I take her hair and I pulled it back, and I have her face like this, he said, and I'm talking to her, and I talked to her about relaxing, being strong, and I said to her, come in, meaning her body. Wow. But the two remained inches apart, he said, and he did not try to kiss her because he did not sense. Okay, this is all about sensory, y'all. This is all about non-verbal shit. This is all about energy, okay? All of a sudden, Bill Cosby is a goddamn mystic all of a sudden, okay now? He don't give a fuck about verbal, honey, okay? Because non-verbal is how he's able to get away with the fuckery and the foolishness by relying on something complete, by relying on a subjective interpretation or relying on a subjective invite from women, okay? So he said he did not kiss her because he did not sense she wanted him to. Nevertheless, at the next dinner, he said they had what he described as a sexual moment, short of intercourse. He described her afterwards as having a glow. Expounding on his philosophy about sex, Mr. Cosby said he tended to refrain from intercourse because he did not want women to fall in love with him. To him, he said, the act of sexual intercourse is something that I feel the woman will succumb to more of a romance and more of a feeling, not love, but it's deeper than a playful situation. As far as he and Mrs. Constant went, he said, and I quote, that they were playing sex. We're playing petting. We're playing. Was he in love with her? He answered no. Yet the association endured for years until one night at his Pennsylvania home when Mrs. Constant said Mr. Cosby drugged and molested her. Mr. Cosby said he gave her 1.5 tablets of Benadryl to relieve stress. They kissed and had sexual contact. Her lawyer said she believed it was a much more powerful drug. Sometime later, after Mrs. Constant had moved home to Canada, Mr. Cosby spoke with Mrs. Constant's mother on the telephone. The mother, he said, was upset about what her daughter said Mr. Cosby had done, describing the experience as a mother's nightmare. In the deposition, he said he was worried that Mrs. Constant's mother would think of him as a dirty old man. That wouldn't be a far off thought, you fucking freak. During the call, Mr. Cosby told the deposing lawyers he wanted Mrs. Constant to tell her mother about the orgasms so that she would realize it was consensual. So this weird motherfucker, to save his own ass, wanted Constant to go into graphic detail about how she secreted all over Bill Cosby's dick so that her mother could fully conceptualize how consensual and mutual this experience was. Baby. Quote, tell your mother about the orgasms. Tell your mother how we talked, he said. He remembered thinking. These are his words. Subsequently, concerned that Mrs. Constant and her mother might seek to embarrass him, he said he offered to help pay for Mrs. Constant's further education. Years earlier, he offered to reward another woman, Therese Serenesi, whom he had met at the Las Vegas Hilton in 1976 with money as a bonus for good grades. Okay? Wait a minute, you guys. Wait a minute. Okay, oh, this is where it gets good, girl. I'm about to jump. I gotta jump, girl. Let's jump down because I want to get to the meat, girl. The shit that was shaking my wig. In the case of Mrs. Constant, who never saw any funds, Mr. Cosby said he imagined his wife would have known he was helping with her education, but he said, quote, my wife would not know it was because Andrea and I had had sex, and that Andrea was now very, very upset, and that she decided that she would like to go to school. While Mr. Cosby insisted the only drug he had given Mrs. Constant was Benadryl, he was open about his access in the 1970s to Quaaludes, a sedative also popular as a party drug. He said he obtained 7 prescriptions for them over 2 to 3 years from a doctor in Los Angeles, ostensibly for a sore back, but in reality to give to women. So Bill Cosby manipulated his private doctor under the guise that he was experiencing chronic back pain, and used this cover story with the intention, in his own words, to give to women to have what he calls sex with them. I would call to rape them. Girl, he admitted to giving young women Quaaludes at that time, the same as a person would say, have a drink. He said, but not without their knowledge. Though he portrayed the drug taking and sex as consensual, Mr. Cosby, when asked whether I'm going to call her Mrs. S. Mrs. S was in a position. When asked whether Mrs. S was in a position to consent to sexual intercourse after he gave her Quaaludes in 1976, he said, I don't know. This nigga said, I don't know, while claiming that the sex was consensual, claiming that these women also knew these were Quaaludes. But when asked if this particular woman was in a position to consent to sex after digesting the Quaaludes, his answer is, I don't know, which scraps everything Bill Cosby just fucking said about these women knowing and this sex being consensual. Because how can someone consent if, for one, you never asked, and for two, when the experience began, they were unconscious? Let's move, child. Joseph Camerata, a lawyer for Mrs. S and 2 other women who are suing Mr. Cosby for defamation, said of the deposition, this information is important because it sheds light on the private practices of a man who holds himself out as a public moralist. During the questioning, Mr. Cosby cast himself as a sensitive and attentive supporter of Mrs. Constant, though his tone changed when addressing Mrs. Constant in the present tense. Asked by Mrs. Constant's lawyer about how he felt when Mrs. Constant cried during her own deposition, Mr. Cosby was unsparing. Quote, I think Andrea is a liar, and I know she's a liar because I was there. And he could be dispassionate in recalling former relationships with a woman named Beth Frayer, a model he met in the 1980s. He recalled inquiring after her career and her father, who had died of cancer. Did you ask her those questions because you wanted to have sexual contact with her? Mrs. T asked. Quote, yes, Mr. Cosby responded. Still, he said he viewed himself as a good person. So what just was read here, you guys, is this woman father died of cancer, and Bill Cosby act like he cared by asking her about her career and her deceased father, only because he was interested in sex with her. Not a crime, just fucking sleazy and low vibrating. Not a crime though, but just fucking sleazy and disgusting. And he still viewed himself as a good person, despite his lust and objectification and his objectifying interest in women. Quote, I'm a man. The only way you will hear about who I had sex with is from the person I had it with, he said. In some passages, Mr. Cosby offered a glimpse into a lifelong insulated of perks and wealth. Okay? I want to get to, I don't think this is the one that I read, you guys. This isn't, wait, hold on. Let me go back, bitch. I have to get this article. This isn't it. because there's literally like a transcript that I read. Hold on, girl. No, ma'am. This didn't shake me, but that was a good setup, honey. But that wasn't the meat and the goddamn potatoes. Hold on. Oh, I think I found it. Wait a minute. I think this is it right here. Hold on, you guys. Okay, here it is. This is it, bitch. Hold on, bitch. This is it. Hold on. Right, Quay Delia. If you are asleep, drowsy as hell, inebriated, in an altered goddamn state, you cannot consent to freaking sex. Here it is, guys. This is what I was looking for. This is what I read. Damn, I'm mad I spent all that time on New York Times. Hold on. This is it. Let's get it. Okay? This is the straight Q&A, girl. Let's get it. Okay, on Constant, question. When did you first develop a romantic interest in Andrea? Probably the first time I saw her, Cosby says. Can you tell me what you recall of the night in which you gave the pills to Andrea? Cosby answers, Andrea came to the house. I called her. We talked about Temple University. We talked about her position. And then I went upstairs and I got 3 pills. I brought them down. They are the equivalent of 1.5. The reason why I gave them and offered them to Andrea, which she took after examining them, he never said she knew what they were. He never said, as you guys pay attention, he never said he disclosed to her what they were. He simply offered her these pills and she examined them in terms of she looked at them and she just digested them, okay? He made sure to word that up that way so that you couldn't catch it. The reason why I gave them and offered them to Andrea, which she took after examining, not asked, and he clarified, after she examined them, was because she was talking about stress. So you're not telling us that you verbally asked her for permission. He answers, I didn't say it verbally, I said. The action is my hand on her midriff, which is skin. I'm not lifting any clothing up. This is, I don't remember fully what it is, but it's there and I can feel. I got her skin and it's just above the hand and it's just above where you can go under the pants. Question, then what happens? He says, I don't hear her say anything and I don't feel her say anything. And so I continue and I go into the area that is somewhere between permission and rejection. I am not stopped. Y'all, I am about to spider walk out of the fucking house. This nigga is fucking crazy. He literally says, he answers, he starts to answer off with, I don't even hear, this woman is completely unconscious. He does not even hear her say anything. And he doesn't feel her say anything. Because this is a mystic here, you guys. Okay? This is a feeler. He doesn't feel. What the fuck does that even mean? That you don't, how the fuck you don't feel someone's. Look, let me do, girl, let's move. Question. What was the thing that you did not want to talk about? Answer. I didn't want to talk about, what did you give her? Why? Because we're over the telephone and I'm not sending anything. Quotations, the pill bottle, over the mail, and I'm not giving any, and I'm not giving away anything. Oh, okay, wait a minute, you guys. Let me set this up. So this is Mrs. T asks Cosby about a phone call a year later between Cosby and Constance's mother, Gianna Constant, who told him something was wrong with her daughter, who was also on the line. So remember earlier when I read from New York Times that after this encounter, after Andrea Constant had took these pills, she went back home to her mom. Her mom called Cosby frantic because something was clearly physically wrong with her daughter as far as the mother was concerned. So They're questioning him by saying, what was the thing that you did not want to talk about? He answers, I didn't want to talk about, quotations, what did you give her? Question, why didn't you want to talk about that? He answers, because we're over the phone and I'm not sending anything, the pill bottle, over the mail, and I'm not giving away anything. Question, why didn't you simply tell her that you had given her daughter an over-the-counter drug called Benadryl? He answers, I'm not going to argue with somebody's mother who was accusing me of something. And then when I apologize, she says to me, that's all I wanted to know, Bill. And I'm apologizing because I'm thinking this is a dirty old man with a young girl. I apologize. I said to the mother, it was digital penetration. I cannot tell you guys that I even know what the fuck this means. Digital penetration. I'll look it up later. Let's read. Question, when she sat here and cried, Constantine that is, during her deposition, how did you feel? Cosby answers, I think Andrea is a liar. And I know she's a liar because I was there. Now, this is when the part of the deposition that gets to the Quaaludes. Cosby testified that he had gotten Quaaludes from his doctor in Los Angeles in the 1970s. He said he was given 7 prescriptions for the now banned sedative, ostensibly for a sore back. I butchered the fuck out of the word. Question, why didn't you ever take the Quaaludes? He answers, because I used them. They ask, for what? He says, the same as a person would say, have a drink. They ask, you gave them to other people. He says, yes. They say, did you believe at the time it was illegal for you to dispense the drugs? He said, yes. The nigga admits that he knew it was fucking illegal to distribute prescribed medicine to individual, to regular civilians, to anybody aside from himself. He says, yes, I knew what I was doing was against the law. I knew it was illegal. Just answer this flat out, yes. They ask, how did the doctor know that you didn't plan to use them? He answers, what was happening at the time was that Quaaludes happened to be the drug that kids, young people, were using to party with. And there were times when I wanted to have them just in case. They asked him. Hold on, you guys. I got a text. Hold on real quick, guys. Okay, I had to make sure. They asked him, when you got the Quaaludes, was it in your mind that you were going to use these Quaaludes for young women that you wanted to have sex with? He answers fucking yes. That he had every intention and plans on using his fame coupled with Quaaludes to what he calls have sex with young women, which was really sexual assault upon young women. Because if you need anything other than a yes from a woman, I'm going to consider that to be fucking rape. The fact that he even had to step his motherfucking perversion up and going beyond consent by ensuring that he would get what he wanted when he got these women into private spaces because he was going to drug them, which was his insurance that a woman wasn't going to fucking leave his space that he was attracted to without his share of a feel and a touch up. And sometimes more than that. Okay, so for all y'all making motherfucking excuses for Bill Cosby, if a nigga is so healthy and these are fucking whores and Bill Cosby didn't have to drug no fucking body, what the fuck is he, why the fuck is he saying, why the fuck is he in need of Quaaludes? And why the fuck is he has the intention and did distribute them? If Bill Cosby's pussy magnet was this fucking high. No player that I know uses fucking Quaaludes. No male whore that I know uses any fucking sedative. You know what they fucking use? Their swag, their motherfucking looks. Whatever the shit is that got their pussy meter high. This nigga was weak and knew he didn't have what the fuck it took to be sexually interesting to women. So he made sure that he would get what the fuck he wanted sexually for women by having the means to sedate them. And y'all still out here. Y'all still out here defending Bill Cosby. Okay. There's no evidence though. It's all mythology. It's all what media said. It's all what these white women said. It's all what these whores said. There's no proof out there. Whole 1,000-page motherfucking deposition of straight up confession. Let's go on. Cosby acknowledges having sexual relationship with accuser Mrs. T starting around 1976 when she was 19. Mrs. S, who had gone public with her accusations, has said the first time she met Cosby at a Las Vegas hotel in 1976, he gave her Quaaludes and a glass of water before they had sex. Questioning begins. Did you give her Quaaludes? He says yes. What effect did the Quaaludes have on her? He says she became in those days what was called high. Question. She said that she believed she was not in a position to consent to intercourse after you gave her the drug. Do you believe that is correct? He answers, I don't know. How many years ago are we talking about? 1976? I meet Mrs. Picking in Las Vegas. She meets me backstage. I give her Quaaludes. We then have sex. Question. Why didn't you ever take them yourself? He answers, I get sleepy. They ask him, how would you know that if you never took them? He says, Quaaludes happen to be a depressant. I have had surgery, and while being given pills that block the nervous system, in particular the areas of muscle in the back, I found that I get sleepy and wanted to stay awake. Because Bill Cosby is a motherfucking expert, girl, on the pharmaceuticals, girl. If you ever need some motherfucking information, girl, about what the motherfucking side effects is from some shit that you prescribe to, girl, you just go ahead and tweet Mrs. Cosby, honey. She gives you the 411. The bitch probably missed his motherfucking calling, girl, talking about America's favorite motherfucking fictional dad, bitch. It sound like you should have been my motherfucking CVS pharmaceutical provider, girl. Okay, run me the super Tylenol, Mrs. Cosby. They question, is that why you don't drink alcohol? He says, exactly. Now, they go into another part of the deposition. Cosby says that while he was filming one of his sitcoms, an agency would send 5 or 6 models to his studio each week. He says he would give the struggling young actress, okay, right, did we talk about this earlier, right? Desperate, career-driven women, like any career-driven male or female, okay? Passionate, young, vibrant, wanting to make it, okay? Here it is. Cosby preys upon, just why he preyed upon young women. They were the most moldable and groomable because their desperation and need to appease those in power was much more virgin-like than experienced women who could call game, who could clock game. Remember when we had that discussion, honey, earlier on in this conversation? Okay, you got to understand the psychology of these women when we think about, well, they went through with it. Some of them didn't. Some of them were fucking sedated through it. Some of them agreed to come to the motherfucking room, come to the motherfucking house, and to even take a pill because they were stressed without an understanding that what was being given to them was fucking Quaaludes. Some of them experienced adverse fucking effects because they were under the impression that Cosby maybe just gave them a Valium. Now they home with their fucking mama turning into the motherfucking exorcist and don't know why. Got mama fucking freaking out, calling Bill, frantic and shit. Like, what the fuck have you done to my motherfucking daughter? Anyway, he says he would give the struggling young actresses a very, very good meal. He describes the sexual encounter he had with one of them in the year 2000. Question, she says that just days after she told you that she did not drink, you told her to come over to your townhouse and serve her a Moretto. Do you recall serving her a Moretto? He says no. They asked that you told her to sit next to you on the couch and that you put your arm around her and began massaging her shoulder and arms suggestively. Did that occur? This occurred sometime after you met her parents. Answer. I need clarification on time. Clarification on time. Bitch, you don't remember the situation? Not you need more clarification about the situation. You need more clarification about the time, because you done did this so many motherfucking times that you can only remember if you did it on November the 15th, November the 16th, November the 24th, November the 27th. Girl. Question. She's 17, and I believe throughout the time she knows you, she becomes 18 or 19. On a later occasion, you had her masturbate you with lotion. Did that ever occur? He says yes. Question. She used the question to rub your penis and make you ejaculate? He answers, bingo. Girl, I am fucking done. I am fucking done. Another part of the deposition. Cosby is asked about a young actress who filed a complaint with New York police that never led to charges. She is named in the deposition but has not gone public with her account and has not returned messages left with family members over the past year. The AP does not identify sexual assault accusers without their consent. Question. Do you recall saying that you had threatened to sue the National Inquiry for printing her story? He answers yes. Do you remember how old she was when she worked on the television show? He says about 19. Did you ever develop a romantic interest in her? Yes, I called her, talked to her. What did you talk about? I believe this has been a long time. Her twin sister, her brother, their education. Question. What did you tell her was the reason why you were inviting her into the house? He says her career. Remember when I said that earlier on? Young, desperate women with an opportunity of a lifetime to get next to a gatekeeper of their career, coercing them into proximity to him after hours under the guise that he's interested in moving them further in their careers. Are you fucking hearing me? Stop playing in my fucking face. It's part of the deposition. On the 19-year-old's second visit, answer, I fed her dinner, gave her 3 drinks. We went then to the living room. We went through acting elementary moves. We then went to the sofa. We laid down together. I was behind her. What? Was she lying down or sitting up? No, she was down. Did she fall asleep? Yes. Oh, I bet she did fall asleep. What did you do when she fell asleep? I got up. Did you engage in any type of sexual contact with her while you were on the couch? No. Are you aware that the woman's statement was that on the night of the dinner at your New York townhouse, quote, at some point Cosby and the woman were sitting on a sofa and Cosby was massaging her? Yes. Cosby then lowered his pants in an effort to receive oral sex? Answer, in an effort to receive oral sex, that did not happen. Question, the woman rebuffed Cosby's advances and was immediately sent home, driven by Cosby's driver? Answer, that is not true. Okay, other parts of the deposition on secrets, tabloids, trust, and Mr. Cosby, okay? Cosby is asked about educational trusts he offered Constant and others through his foundation or otherwise. Question, how would the money to Constant come? Answer, it would come through our writing a check. Question, and our being who? The family, my God. Question, would your wife know about that? Answer, my wife would not know it was because Andrea and I had sex, and that Andrea was now very, very upset, and that she decided she would like to go to school or whatever. So the wife was under the guise that this was a young woman that they were helping to send to school, not one of his side pieces. Question: how would you explain to your wife that you were giving this personally as opposed to using the foundation? Answer: I would say to her that there is a person I would like to help. So here's one of the other things that we're not speaking about as well. We're talking about the victims. But my God, the gullibility, not even the gullibility, the poor wife. A whole wife standing by her husband, major breadwinner, probably a good dad, probably a decent husband in terms of relationally, having no idea at the chronic infidelities that her successful husband, and these aren't even infidelities, a lot of these are the chronic criminal, predatorial, sexual assaults allegedly upon young female actresses. What we're reading in this deposition, what we're understanding about the man that we know as Bill Cosby, the pudding man in this deposition, is that Cosby had no respect for any fucking woman. Not even the woman that he married before the state, who he married before God, who he married before her father. There was no regard for any woman. Every woman was a prompt and a thing that was to be sexually conquered in Cosby's eyes. Now, I can't be here long, and I already been here for an hour and a half, and I got to go. But I just wanted to read enough of that deposition so that you could hear out of Cosby's own words his very the way he intentionally framed his sentences. Like, I gave her some pills and she examined them. At first glance, that would, to the natural ear, that would sound like the brain would say, oh, this person knew. They knew what this was. But he used examined rather than say she asked what these were, rather than make it known if she inquired about what they were at all. He just handed her some random pills. She examined them. He leaves out a whole motherfucking lot in that sentence. In his mind, giving quaaludes to women, whether they knew they were quaaludes or not, was okay because the young people were doing it. He knew it was illegal to distribute. When asked if, after giving women quaaludes, if they could respond, in one instance, with one particular woman, as you heard in the deposition, he said no. He could not hear her speak and he did not feel her speak, and yet proceeded to feel her. because Bill Cosby, in his own words, is a liar and a fucking manipulator with the intention to abuse the law, quote, I knew it was illegal to do, and admitting that he lied to his wife about the money he was paying off to these women to basically keep them from outing him. I'm going to go with the accusers in this case. Because why in the fuck, based upon everything that he did, all of his posture and his admission in this motherfucking deposition, would I believe there's anything to trust in Bill Cosby's fucking character? I'm going to go with the fucking victims. This man admitted to being manipulative, admitted to distributing a prescribed drug against doctor's orders, against the fucking law, to women who sometimes, according to him, knew and didn't know, that rendered women, in his experience, everything from high to completely unresponsive. And we're going to call the accusers whores? We're going to call the victims whores? Now, I'm sure that there were people who clout chased. But I'm talking particularly about the women who Bill Cosby is talking about in this deposition. For sure were preyed upon. He even says he would have them come over and he would groom them and vet them under the guise that he was interested in their careers when he only really wanted to fuck. And that he only got quaaludes, which he lied to his medical profession as well. Lied about suffering from chronic back pains just to get access to quaaludes so he could use with the intention of distributing to women for what he called sex, which was actually sexual assault in some cases. And people are defending Bill fucking Cosby. So innocent? No. His verdict was overturned. Yes. Based upon a technicality. Yes. The law gave Bill Cosby the option to settle out of court. He took the plea deal in exchange for the deposition. So he was never supposed to be charged criminally, only civilly, which is why he ended up settling out of court under the guise of a defamation and paid these victims millions of dollars. Years later, a new prosecutor comes into play and then utilizes Bill Cosby's testimony in the deposition to incriminate and penalize Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby then goes to jail. Bill Cosby's legal team go through and through to get him out of prison, to find that there's been a massive motherfucking error on behalf of the criminal justice system. Because when you offer someone a plea deal and you sign, seal, deliver, and agree upon it, you cannot defer from that motherfucking plea deal. You can do that in real life. Like, I can agree to loan you my car and then change my fucking mind. I can agree to let you utilize my MacBook and then change my mind. I can agree to loan you some money and then change my fucking mind without consequence. Not in the court of law. You agree on a plea deal, bitch. It's on period. So technically, the courts had to correct it. Verdict overturned. Not that Bill Cosby is found innocent. He's found justifiably qualified for freedom. because he took a plea deal in exchange for his freedom. They tried to manipulate him for money and status within their career, and he manipulated those women for sex. How did they try to manipulate him when he's the one admitting that he was preying upon young actresses who were being brought onto the set of the show by way of an agency that dispersed models and actresses out to casting calls and to gigs in Hollywood, like Model Mayhem and like these exploretalent.com, these type of sites, you know. What they did was not illegal. Even fucking your way to the top is not illegal. It's not hygienic, but it's not illegal. To compare women using their body and sexuality to get what they want out of men to men using quaaludes and sedatives to abuse women sexually is a false equivalency by the most extreme. There's not even comparability in that. That's not even in the same state of one another. He can be as sincerely interested in women. You should have been sincerely enough to have sex under organic circumstances. You know, like when a man walks up to you and say, "Hey, baby, can I get your number?" And then you willingly give him the number. And then later on, he starts flirting with you through text. And that text turns into sexting. And then y'all decide to meet up for a good fuck in the baseball field. That's sincere. That's legal. That's okay. Him drugging you in the baseball field and you not knowing who the fuck you are and where the fuck you was the next day is the problem. You agreed to give him the pussy, but you agreed to remember that you gave him the pussy. You agreed to remember you took the dick last night. You didn't agree to be fucking drugged. I can't believe some of y'all are literally going to make an excuse when Bill Cosby admitted to lying to his doctor, admitted to manipulating these women, admitted to giving women drugs that they weren't necessarily, that they couldn't necessarily identify, didn't necessarily always inform them, and still proceeded to sexually assault women, even when he could see physically and he could feel in his mysticism that they couldn't say anything or there was no movement. Now, a lot of y'all making excuses for Bill Cosby wouldn't even make an excuse for a man putting you in that exact same situation. How many of y'all would have already been down to the police precinct? How many of y'all in real life, if you were in these women's position, do you think that a man gets to do anything he wants to do just because you agreed to come over at any point in time and night? Does that give a man a right to do whatever he wants to do to you just because you even agreed to sex? Does he get to choke you till you pass the fuck out as he's having sex? Like, I'm sure that that's not what nobody is consenting to. And even this conversation around, or these sentiments around these women being whores, is so misogynistic and sexist. Because if these women are whores, what the fuck was Bill Cosby? He's the one drugging them. He's the one lying to doctors to get drugs to sedate women so he can be a sexual predator with immunity. It's even the sexism and the toxic masculinity and the rhetoric of these women are whores, while completely absolving and removing whoredom from the man in this particular situation, who also happens to be sexually preying upon these women. I don't understand how this is a debate. I don't understand how this is. How are there loopholes to justify this behavior? I am confused right now. Y'all really... We'll pick up this discussion. I gotta go. I got company. I got things to do. I'm gonna leave this article in the description box for you guys to read for yourself, so that by the time we return at some point in the week to have a part 2, and we open up the lines, and y'all can come call in, hit the StreamYard link, and give a perspective, that you can be informed. So until we get back to part 2 of this discussion, check out the link, read the deposition for yourself, and then we're going to come back and we're going to further discuss this. Thank you, LaShonda. Thank you so much, love. Carlos said, Bill Cosby. Hold on. Bill Cosby is the narcissist claimed to be an empath, but he has protection under the law. These prosecutors are cops who passed the bar. Baby. Hey. Baby. Baby. You know, my biological father hasn't been in my life since I was 13 years old. But I'm not in such desperate need for a dad that somehow makes America's dad completely virtuous just because he played a really aspiring, idealistic respectability politic role within the culture. We're talking about the reality of a man who knew that he didn't have enough sex appeal or physical attractiveness to get women into organic circumstances regarding sex with him. So what he did in return, in order to compensate, was use his fame and use prescribed drugs. His particular favorites, Quaaludes, to make up the difference for being not so physically attractive and not having no real game. We'll be back for a part 2. In the meantime, thumbs up this video. Check out the deposition. We'll come back. I'll talk to you guys later.